Video games have thrived on inspiration, developers taking ideas from what came before and then building on that with their own ideas, and that vicious cycle is what has allowed gaming to evolve to the degree that it has, and what's allowed incredible new ideas to crop up that on some level do draw from past foundations, which is why when a company patents game mechanics, it tends to be frowned upon, because all that does is stifle innovation. It just defeats the whole purpose of trying to continue to evolve gaming by taking what came before and applying new things. This is why Nintendo is kind of being caught in the crossfire of Backlash, because it was reported by New Salad Automaton Media that Nintendo has registered a number of new patents from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, even for loading screens, believe it or not. So Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, it is a pretty incredible game, and it has some amazing mechanics, and it's crazy how all these mechanics work in such a polished manner, be it the ability to create your own contraptions, to the ability to fuse your weapons with items to create all kinds of effects, to things like the ability to phase through objects above you, and it all just comes together to create a game that's very creatively engaging for the players, allows them to tackle puzzles and situational obstacles however they want. And that's all cool and all, but it seems as though Nintendo wants to ensure that other games don't draw too heavily from this, take inspiration from this, and try to implement those mechanics maybe in their own unique ways, given that Nintendo's made a significant number of their registered patents public in the past month, and a lot of them pertain to The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, namely a lot of the abilities that are presented in the game. Over the last month, a lot of these patents have become public. In the period between July 10th and August 4th, Nintendo made public a total of 32 patents, and 31 of those are related to Tears of the Kingdom. Abilities such as Ultra Hand, which is what allows you to grab objects in the open world and kind of glue them together to create contraptions and create just all kinds of things, from simple bridges to freaking, I've seen people make their own Metal Gears in the game, or vehicles and whatnot. It's pretty crazy what you can do with Ultra Hand. And there's Fuse, that's the ability that allows you to take your weapon or shield or bow and arrow and take items that you fuse with your weapons, and that could strengthen them or add interesting new effects to them. And then alongside that, things like abilities for certain side characters like Riju's remote lightning attack has seen a patent from Nintendo. And there are elements like calculations in regards to the physics of this game, calculations performed while Link rides on top of objects, for example. This is the full description from the patent, but basically what the game did was the game judges when Link is making contact with a movable object underneath him, and if the object moves, Link will automatically move in the same way and speed as the object does without any input being made. Meaning that instead of treating Link as a separate object from what he's on top of and applying two different forms of physics to them, Nintendo thought it'd be better in this game to make it so that no physics is working between Link and the dynamic object. Nintendo decided that it would best work for the game if Link were given the same movement that the object is performing without any physics working between the two. Just the fact that Nintendo is patenting these kinds of mechanics alone is being called into question. But people are also wondering, are these patents justified given that some of this stuff doesn't sound all that unique? As the article itself states here, it's hard to firmly state there are no predecessors to the mechanic, be it this whole situation here where there's no physics working between Link and the dynamic object. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom did not pioneer characters and the objects they're standing on moving at the same speed. Maybe there's a methodology to Tears of the Kingdom that's different given how physics-based everything is, that maybe makes this calculation unique or something, but even then, just to patent something like this just seems ridiculous. Same thing goes for the Ultra Hand mechanic that allows you to fuse objects together to allow people to essentially become engineers. I mean, you look back at things like Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, where you could create vehicles willy-nilly, or you look at, I don't know, Fortnite, where you can just erect entire structures and buildings, build live as you play the game. And these mechanics aren't entirely unique. Again, maybe the methodology of the way it's done in Tears of the Kingdom is unique in its approach, given that Tears of the Kingdom is a different type of game than Nuts and Bolts and Fortnite and games that might implement similar elements. But the end goal of the methodology isn't entirely unique. And it just sucks that Nintendo or companies who do try to patent their mechanics are trying to keep those methodologies for themselves instead of allowing developers to be able to take inspiration from those methodologies so that their future games can be better off for them and can continue this cycle of evolution, innovation that has made gaming what it is now. Even Zelda Tears of the Kingdom takes inspiration from a lot of game mechanics that were not pioneered by Nintendo. Zelda itself inherits a lot from past foundations established by past developers who did not patent the mechanics that Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom use. Also, how petty do you have to be to patent freaking loading screens? Specifically for Tears of the Kingdom, it does this thing where when you fast travel, the loading screen will show the map, the location where you started from, and then the location where you ended up through the fast travel. It will literally show you the map and then your icon disappearing from your current location and then appearing in the destination location, which is cool and all, but really you want to try to monopolize that? Different presentation styles of loading screens. Another cool mechanic in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is this ability called Recall, which allows you to rewind time of specific objects. So if an object fell from the sky, you can rewind it so that it goes back up to where it fell from. You can do things like right on top of it as you rewind time. But rewinding time is not something that is unique to Tears of the Kingdom. To patent the mechanic in such a way that anyone who tries to implement something similar might be legally at risk and might prevent them from taking inspiration from abilities like Recall, from abilities like Fuse and Ultra Hand to make their own take of what that could look like in their game that is unique in its identity, to try to stifle that by putting a legal risk to these mechanics. It just does not serve gaming in any way, shape, or form, which Nintendo knows, but Nintendo's a corporation. They're all about protecting their own interests, and with that comes a certain level of selfishness that they partake in at the expense of innovation, at the expense of shared innovation and knowledge and inspiration. Nintendo's loading screen patent in particular reminds me of when Namco patented this whole idea of auxiliary games that a player can enjoy while the main game is loading, essentially mini games during loading screens. That was patented by Namco until the patent expired back in November 27th, 2015. As for other patents with significant gameplay implications, there is no case more infamous than when Warner Brothers decided to patent their Nemesis system, which, as IGN aptly describes here, it is a system featuring procedurally generated NPCs that exist in a hierarchy and interact with and will remember the actions of players, have their appearance/behavior altered by players, and whose place in that hierarchy can change and affect the position of other NPCs in said hierarchy. In the case of the Middle-earth games, that was implemented through the hierarchy system of the Uruks or the Orcs. It was a cool gameplay mechanic that has only been implemented in the Middle-earth games because Warner Brothers decided to patent these, and others have not been able to take that idea and kind of do their own spin on it without the risk of, legal ramifications. After Warner Brothers Games' Nemesis patent was approved back in February of 2021, which, much like with Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, it's hypocritical given how much Warner Brothers' Middle-earth Shadow of series draws from other games, its combat system, its open world structure, among many other elements of the game. The reason this game was possible is because it took learnings and foundations and inspirations from past games and applied them with the unique twist of the Nemesis system that gave it more of a unique identity. And again, that's how video games have evolved, by introducing new layers to past learnings until you get innovative new ideas added on top of the previous innovations that came before. And what's particularly funny about the timing all of this with Nintendo patenting game mechanics is that it wasn't long ago that Nintendo talked about how much they value innovation, and they said that emulation stifles innovation, which PC Gamer aptly called out as absurd and hypocritical. The existence of emulation by itself is an innovation, and on top of that, the introduction of things like save and load states, running games at 2 times the speed, elements that have been officially implemented in video games or modern ports, as well as how emulation has paved the road to fan translations for games that otherwise would have never been introduced in other regions outside of, say, Japan. Something that has actually paved the road to innovation, Nintendo has labeled as stifling innovation, while Nintendo itself engages in business tactics that actually do stifle innovation. Now, there are some situations where patents have been approached in a more innovation-friendly way, and I can't believe EA gets to be the one to get compliments for this. But yeah, there was that one situation where EA back in August of 2021 secured a patent for the Apex Legends ping system, but they said that this patent is freely available for anyone to use, meaning that while the patent does belong to EA, you don't have to get a license or anything. You are not at legal risk because EA is just giving out the knowledge of this ping system for free so that it's available to developers to, quote, drive meaningful change. As the article further specifies here, EA has protected this technology, the Apex Legends ping system, with a patent, but what might surprise you is that EA is opening the ping system up to any developer that might want to use it in aid of improved accessibility. But more often than not, when you look at the patents for like the Nemesis system, for dual reality gameplay, this patent is active until 2039. A patent from the Medium, the folks at Bloober Team. Believe it or not, the dialogue wheel from Mass Effect, that patent is still currently active. This specific model of picking dialogue, other companies cannot use. And then there's the whole play while you wait, the mini games during loading screen stuff is brought up in this article. Directional arrows, that's also an infamous case, though as of 2018, this patent has officially expired. But yeah, this arrow right here, this compass essentially, that tells you where to go on the top of your screen live, for many years, that was patented. The sanity system from Eternal Darkness also apparently got patented and expired back in November of 2021. The list just goes on. Patenting game mechanics is nothing new. It's been happening for many, many years. And the thing about video games is that those specific game mechanics aren't the product itself. You know what I mean? Those inventions of game mechanics or unique methodologies of achieving game mechanics, those are not the product. The product is that, but everything else around it as well that makes the entirety of the video game. The video game is the product. Game mechanics alone don't carry a game. It's all of the artistry surrounding that and all of the design elements surrounding that that makes a whole complete video game product. So patenting game mechanics and trying to hoard them isn't going to help you as much as you think. All you're doing is stifling competition and stifling the ability for the gaming industry to continue this creative, vicious cycle of inspiration. All you're doing is showing off how insecure you are about others taking your ideas and making them better. And you shouldn't be insecure about that. You should be thrilled about that, pioneering something that inspires others, because then you can take ideas that others might come up with based on the ideas that you introduced, and then you can take that and like layer on top of that your own new ideas. And this is how we keep that ball rolling until games just continue to get cooler and more creative. So yeah, the patenting of game mechanics is just something that I'll never support, and it's something that is never going to be looked upon favorably, but companies will unfortunately continue to try to do this, and it's a damn shame, and I think it should be called out every time it happens. But that's one man's take. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts and opinions are on Nintendo patenting Zelda Tears of the Kingdom powers, mechanics, even loading screen elements, and just what your general stance is on game mechanic patents. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.